You think you're in control, but the truth is, something far darker has been pulling your strings from the very start. It doesn't wear a name, it doesn't ask for permission, it just waits patiently until you reach for it. And once you do, it owns you. Every man has a desire he can't admit, not to his friends, not to the woman beside him, sometimes not even to himself. It's not weakness, it's older than you, older than your pride, your logic, your goals. It's the silent hand shaping your choices, your habits, your path in life. You may call it love. You may call it chemistry, but deep down you know it's something else, something primal, something dangerous. Tonight, I want you to remember a moment. It could have been last week, or 10 years ago, a moment when you saw her, whoever she was, and for a second, the world stopped moving. Your breath caught, your thoughts blurred, and something inside you whispered, mine. Her name might have been Elise. Or Mia, or nothing at all. She may have looked at you, or walked past without noticing. It didn't matter, because in that one moment, she was no longer a person, she was a force. You didn't fall in love, you fell into orbit. And here's the truth most men never admit. That moment wasn't about her, it was about what she awakened in you. A hunger, a fire, a quiet madness dressed as longing. No one ever warned you. They taught you how to make money, how to stay fit, how to be charming, but they never said this, that the most dangerous thing in your life would come wrapped in perfume and soft skin, and that you, the man who thinks he's logical, strategic, untouchable, would willingly burn down everything just to feel wanted. Welcome, tonight, we're stepping beyond what you've been told about control, lust, and power. If you've ever felt the pull of something forbidden, something you couldn't name, but couldn't deny, stay, this is for you. Like this video, subscribe if you're ready to see the dark truth most men never face. Take a slow breath, let's go deeper. But that's only the surface, the real danger hides deeper. Word count, 506. Most men don't realize their ambition is lust in disguise. You chase the job, the status, the car that turns heads. You tell yourself it's for security, for growth, for the future. But if you strip away the justifications, if you sit alone, in the quiet, and ask yourself why, the answer is never what you want to admit. It's not power you crave, it's attention, it's approval. It's the glance from her, whoever her is, that tells you you're finally enough. That's the engine behind your so-called drive, not vision, not passion. Desire, and desire wears many masks. You wake up early, grind through hours, chase that next milestone, but deep down, what you want isn't the number in your account. It's what you think it'll make her feel when she looks at you, because when a man feels unseen, unwanted, unchosen, he doesn't collapse, he compensates, he builds, he buys, he climbs, but every brick he lays is soaked in longing. You weren't born greedy, you were born hungry, hungry to be noticed, to be validated, to be wanted. And somewhere along the way, someone taught you that success would feed that hunger. They were wrong. Here's what they didn't tell you. The hunger never leaves, because the game isn't about satisfaction. It's about the chase. Lust doesn't want peace. It wants pursuit. It feeds on the tension between almost and never enough. That's why, no matter how much you achieve, there's always something missing. The applause fades, the compliments get quieter, and you're left with this gnawing feeling in your chest, like you're running towards something that keeps stepping further away. Schopenhauer understood this. He called it the will, a blind, endless craving built into the fabric of being. And the cruelest part, even when you get what you want, you suffer, because wanting is the only thing that makes you feel alive. And once the wanting ends, so does the illusion of meaning. That's why men destroy themselves, not for love, not for sex, but for the idea that maybe, just maybe, this next conquest will finally quiet the ache, but it never does. Because the truth is, you weren't chasing her, you were chasing a version of yourself that felt powerful in her eyes. And the moment she looked away, that version crumbled. So what now? You can keep building. Keep hunting, keep pretending the next win will fix the hole inside. Or you can stop, not give up, just stop, and look at what's really been driving you. Because until you do, you're not ambitious, you're possessed, and she's not your reward, she's your reflection. But that's only the surface. The real danger hides deeper. Word count 1020. She didn't break you. You handed her the weapon. It never starts with collapse. It starts with a glance, a laugh, a moment so small, so forgettable, you don't even notice the shift. But something inside you leans forward, curious, open, unguarded. You call it connection. You tell yourself it's harmless, but in that moment, you begin to hand her the map. To your mind, to your weaknesses, to your need. Most men think control is about dominance. But real control, true, quiet control, is about knowing what a man wants to hear, what he aches to feel, what he secretly fears, and when she senses it, not because she's manipulative, but because she's wired to detect it. She speaks to that part of you, not your logic, not your goals, but the lonely boy hiding behind your chest. You feel seen, heard, understood. That's the moment it happens. You stop seeing her as a person. You start seeing her as the answer. The answer to your ache, to your questions, to your doubt, and once she becomes that, you're no longer a man beside her. You're a man beneath her, because now she has something you've given up, leverage. You don't notice it at first. She cancels a call, you wait, she replies cold, you overthink, she pulls back, you chase harder. And every time you explain, justify, apologize, you reinforce the lie that her presence is more valuable than your peace. You call it chemistry. But it's captivity, the worst part. You do it to yourself, because deep down, some part of you believes you have to earn her warmth. That if you prove your loyalty, your usefulness, your devotion, she'll come back to who she was at the start. But here's the truth you refuse to face. That version of her never existed. She was a mirror, reflecting back what you wanted to see, and you fell in love with your own projection. That's why it hurts, not because she left, but because the illusion broke, and now you're sitting in the aftermath, questioning your worth, blaming yourself, trying to decode silence like it's a language you should have known. But understand this, it's not your failure that hurt you. It's the hope you wrapped around her. Hope is the most seductive weapon, because it doesn't strike like a sword. It bleeds you slowly, softly, with the dream that maybe, just maybe, she'll return to the beginning. But she won't, and even if she did, you'd never trust it again, because something cracked, not in her, in you. That's the moment you start to wake up. Not with anger, not with clarity, but with this strange, aching grief for the version of yourself you gave away. So ask yourself, at what point did you stop being a man and become a beggar for her attention? Because every time you chase, you teach her that your soul is for sale, and the currency is her validation. But that's only the surface. The real danger hides deeper. Word count 1062. What you desire might secretly disgust you. That's the part no one talks about. The part that doesn't fit the fantasy. The part that makes your skin crawl when you're alone, staring into the dim glow of your own reflection. You tell yourself it's normal. You're just a man, just following nature. but late at night, when the noise dies down. You feel it, that quiet shame, the kind that doesn't scream, it whispers in the way you look at her. Not just with want, but with need, with desperation, with the sick belief that her approval can cleanse you. That if she touches you, sees you, picks you, you'll be whole again. But lust doesn't heal, it hollows. You think the wanting makes you more alive, but it's carving something out of you, piece by piece, until what remains isn't a man, it's a vessel for craving. And here's the twist, sometimes you don't even want her, you want the pain. You want the collapse, you want to drown, because at least then, you're feeling something. It's not just attraction. It's addiction to the high, to the loss of control, to the chaos wrapped in silk and perfume. That's what disgusts you, not her. Not lust itself, but how easily you trade your values for a taste, how quickly your strength becomes submission. All because of a glance. You've watched yourself do it, pretend, lie, abandon your standards just to stay close to the flame. And then you hate yourself for it, but you go back again and again until the mirror becomes a threat. You stop looking into your own eyes because there's something in there now, something darker, something that knows. It knows that you've become a stranger to yourself, a man ruled not by intention, but by impulse. Schopenhauer warned of this. He saw how the will, the blind, primal force inside all of us, uses lust to hijack reason. How it tricks you into believing that surrender is strength, that chasing is freedom, that obsession is love. But deep down, you know it's not. You feel it when you wake up beside someone who should have made you feel alive. But instead, you feel empty, flat, ashamed, because you weren't there for connection, you were there to escape. To run from the silence inside you. And now that it's over, the silence is louder than ever, so you pick up your phone, scroll, swipe. Search not for her, for another hit, another reason to avoid the truth waiting in your chest. That truth, you don't lust after her body, you lust after the permission to not be yourself, and that's what breaks you, not the act, not the desire, but the mask you have to wear to keep chasing it. Soon, you can't remember who you were before the hunger. Before you became the man who trades peace for pleasure and dignity for dopamine. It's not about morality, it's about memory. About the moment you stopped recognizing your own reflection, because when a man no longer respects his own desire, he starts to rot from the inside out, and the worst part is, you know it's happening, but you keep going. Because stopping means facing the shame, and shame is a mirror most men can't bear to face. But that's only the surface, the real danger hides deeper. Word count, 1059. What feels like freedom is actually control. You think you're choosing. You think you're in charge, but step back just a little, and you'll start to see the pattern. You walk into a room, your eyes scan. You don't know what you're looking for, but when you see her, you feel it, that pull, that shift in your chest. That spark that tells you, go, so you do, you speak, you charm, you adjust your tone, your posture, your smile, without even realizing it. And in that moment, you're no longer yourself, you're what you think she wants. That's not freedom. That's a performance, one you've rehearsed 1,000 times, without even knowing the script was written for you. And who wrote it? Lust, but not the raw kind, the conditioned kind, the one that was fed to you in fragments, magazines, movies, music. Soft whispers that taught you what power looked like, and what you had to do to earn it. Be desirable, be dominant. But soft, strong, but safe, masculine, but manageable. They gave you a checklist. You called it identity, so you chase. Not just women, but versions of yourself that feel acceptable through their eyes. And every time you succeed, every time she laughs, leans in, touches your arm, you feel that brief surge, that illusion of being wanted. But what you're really feeling is permission. Permission to believe you matter, that you're enough, that you can rest. It's not real power. It's borrowed, and the cost, it's subtle, invisible, but it builds. You say yes when you should say no. You agree when something inside you resists. You stay when you should walk away, because the feeling of being chosen becomes more important than your peace. She doesn't even have to ask. You offer your time, your energy, yourself, piece by piece. And the scariest part, she doesn't even know she's controlling you, because it's not her, it's the idea of her. The symbol, the mirror, you've given her the script, the power, the key to your reactions. And now, every smile, every silence, every slight withdrawal hits you like a wave, because your worth is now tied to her temperature. And still, you think you're free, you think desire is a choice, but it's a reflex, a program you never questioned. Schopenhauer saw it. He saw how the will traps you in cycles. You want, you chase, you obtain, you suffer, then want again. The pleasure is brief, the suffering is endless. Because the moment you believe something outside of you controls your fulfillment, you've already lost. That's how men are broken, not with pain, but with illusion. Because what looks like freedom, late nights, endless choices, sex without commitment, feels like liberation, but it's not. It's consumption, it's escape, it's a man running from the terrifying truth that he's built his identity on reactions, not intention, and every time you react, you reinforce the lie that she holds the answer, that your peace lies in her eyes, that your power depends on her presence. But look closer, you were never chasing her, you were chasing the moment before she walked away, and every time she does, you start again. Like a loop, a man spinning in a maze with no exit. You call it romance. You call it passion, but it's a pattern, and patterns don't free you, they trap you. So ask yourself, what part of you needs this game to keep going? Because if you stop playing, even for a moment, you might feel something unfamiliar, stillness, space, and in that silence, the truth that the one who craves most is the one who's most controlled. But that's only the surface. The real danger hides deeper. Word count 1054. You don't want her. You want to escape yourself. That's the part you can't say out loud. That when you look at her, when you imagine the touch, the body, the surrender, what you're really reaching for is silence, not the kind you get in peace, the kind you get when the noise inside you finally goes quiet. When, for just a moment, the doubt disappears, the ache fades, the war stops, you think it's about her. But it's not. It's about erasing the version of you that never felt enough, the boy who was overlooked, the man who wasn't picked, the self that stands alone in the mirror and wonders, why am I still not whole? So you chase, not for love, not even for sex, but for annihilation. You want to be swallowed, lost, unmade, because if she consumes you, if she validates you, maybe, just maybe, you won't have to carry the weight of yourself anymore. That's the seduction, not of her curves, but of oblivion, and Schopenhauer knew this. He saw how men disguise despair with desire, how lust becomes a mask, not for passion, but for pain. He called it a trap. The will, this blind, insatiable force, drives us toward things we think we want, but only because they distract us from what we are. And when you look back, when you trace the steps from one obsession to the next, you start to see it, a pattern of escape. Every woman, a different face, but the same purpose: to silence something inside. And here's the cruel part, it works. for a while, the texts, the flirtation. The rush, it all numbs you, distracts you, keeps you spinning, until you crash, until she leaves, until the illusion fades, then it returns. The hollow, the shame, the mirror, and you do it all again, because what you're really addicted to is not pleasure, it's relief, relief from your own reflection, from your fears, from the pressure to be more, do more, prove more. She doesn't free you, she pauses the suffering, briefly, softly, like a drug, but the high fades. And the truth waits, that no one is coming to save you from yourself, not her, not the next one. Not even the fantasy version of you that's rich, admired, worshipped, because none of that fixes the real wound, the one underneath all your wanting. You don't want her, you want to be forgiven, for being insecure, for being unsure, for needing. And lust gives you a shortcut, a temporary pardon, a way to feel powerful without actually becoming powerful. But it never lasts, because it's built on illusion, on escape, on forgetting. So the question is, when will you stop running? Because every time you reach for her, with that ache in your chest and fire in your gut, you're not chasing a woman. You're chasing amnesia, a moment where you forget the man you've become. But that's not freedom, that's erasure, and the price is your identity. So sit with this, let it sting, let it disturb you, because maybe, for the first time, you're not looking away. Maybe you're ready to stop hiding behind lust and face the thing that's really breaking you. But that's only the surface. The real danger hides deeper. Word count 1036. Every man breaks. Not from pain, but from wanting too much. You don't see it coming. It doesn't happen with a crash. It happens in whispers. In small, invisible surrenders. In the way you bend a little, just once, then again, until there's nothing left to stand on. It's not the heartbreak that breaks you, it's the slow erosion of your own boundaries. You give too much. You hope too hard, you want too deeply, and at some point, you forget who you were before you started wanting. You think strength is about holding it together, but real strength is knowing when to let go, when to say no more, but you don't. You can't. Because the wanting owns you now, it wears her voice, her eyes, her silence. Every unanswered message feels like rejection, every delayed response like judgment, and you start to live in her rhythm, not your own. That's the slow collapse. The kind no one sees, the kind that happens behind smiles and sentences like, "I'm fine, but you're not fine." You're tired, exhausted from carrying the weight of your craving, from pretending it's casual, from acting like it doesn't matter. It matters because it's not about her, it's about what her presence makes you feel wanted, chosen enough, and when she pulls away, that illusion slips, and you begin to bargain, you reshape yourself, make yourself smaller, safer, sweeter. You become what you think she wants, and in the process, you lose what made you a man. You think, if I just do this one more thing, if I just wait a little longer, if I just prove I'm different, But all you're proving is that you'll bleed for a maybe, and women can feel that. They don't always know why. But they feel the lack of center, the absence of spine. It's not your affection that turns her away, it's your emptiness. Because no matter how soft your words are, if they come from desperation, they reek. You've mistaken wanting for love. But real love doesn't beg, it doesn't contort itself. Real love stands, even when it shakes, but you've been kneeling so long. You forgot how to stand. Schopenhauer understood this fracture. He saw how desire blinds men, how it turns them into prisoners of their own hope, how the more they crave, the more they suffer, because craving makes you forget your edges. It pulls you into someone else's orbit, and you lose gravity, you lose you. You start to think that without her, you're less. That her love would complete you, heal you, save you. But love isn't salvation, and a woman can't be your mirror. She can't show you who you are. She can only reflect what you already carry. So if you're filled with need, she'll show you more of it. If you're filled with lack, she'll amplify it. It's not her fault. It's not your fault. It's the law of projection, and until you face the wanting inside, not run from it, not numb it, but face it, you'll keep breaking over and over again, for different women, in different ways, but always for the same reason. Because it was never about her. It was about the boy in you still waiting to be told he's enough. But that's only the surface. The real danger hides deeper. Word count 1017. You tell yourself it's love, but it's a deal with your shadow. Not the love you read about, not the kind built on truth, on presence, on peace. No, this love is transactional, built on need, maintained by fear. You don't give to give, you give to keep. You perform not from joy, but from anxiety. Because underneath every gesture, every compliment, every act of affection, lies a question you're too afraid to say out loud. Will you stay? You don't love her. You fear her absence. You fear what it means about you if she walks away. So you overthink, you accommodate, you bend, and you call it love. But real love doesn't ask you to betray yourself. Real love doesn't feel like walking on glass. It doesn't feel like waking up with a pit in your stomach, wondering if today will be the day she finally sees the cracks. Because here's the truth most men bury: you're not in love with her. You're in a contract with your shadow, the part of you that says, if she accepts me, then maybe I'm worthy. If she stays, then maybe I'm not broken. But that's not love. That's negotiation with the parts of you you've refused to face. You're using her to outrun yourself, and every time she looks at you, smiles, touches, forgives, you feel relief. Not connection, relief that your mask held, that the illusion worked, that your cracks stayed hidden for one more day. And slowly, that relief becomes the reward. Not her, not intimacy, but the high of being temporarily enough. And that's when you lose yourself completely, because now your worth is tied to her reactions. Your peace depends on her moods. Your identity lives in her eyes. You've become negotiable, and that's a dangerous place to live. You think you're keeping her, but really you're holding your shadow hostage, feeding it validation in hopes it won't turn on you. But it always does. It shows up in the form of jealousy, control, resentment. Emotional manipulation dressed as romance. You begin to punish her for not healing you. You resent her for not being the answer. You love her, but you need her more than you like to admit, and need, when unchecked, becomes poison. It corrodes the very bond you're trying to protect. Schopenhauer warned of this dynamic, where love becomes less about union and more about escape. He saw how men lose themselves, not to women, but to the illusions they project onto women. You didn't fall for her. You fell for the role she played in your internal drama, the nurturer, the redeemer, the rescuer. But she's just a woman. She can't carry your shadow. She can't save the boy inside you. She can't fix a wound she didn't create. And deep down, you know this. That's why you're tired. Not from her, but from pretending that this is love. Pretending that peace will come if you just do enough, give enough, sacrifice enough. But love doesn't feel like martyrdom. It doesn't feel like disappearing. If you have to shrink to keep her, you're not in love. You're in a contract with your fear, with your shame. with the version of yourself you're too afraid to meet in the dark. So what happens if you stop negotiating? If you stop begging your shadow to leave you alone? If you stop asking her to be your therapist, your savior, your proof? Maybe then you'll meet yourself, the real you, not the mask, not the act, not the story, but the man beneath the bargain. And that's where love begins, not in craving, not in control, but in clarity. Because the moment you stop needing her to fix you, you finally become someone capable of love. But that's only the surface. The real danger hides deeper. Word count 1038. There comes a moment when you no longer chase her. You chase the version of yourself you lost while trying to keep her. You stop texting, stop waiting, stop hoping, not because you've healed, but because something inside you finally cracks. And in that crack, in that silent moment where everything feels still, you don't feel relief, you feel absence, not of her, of you. You look around and realize you've built a life around her approval, her reactions, her attention, and now that she's gone, you don't just miss her, you miss the man you thought you were when she looked at you like you mattered. Because for a while, she made you feel real, like your thoughts had weight, your presence had gravity, your flaws had grace. But that wasn't her job. It was never her job. That illusion, that comfort, was a borrowed mirror. She didn't see you. She saw a version of you that you projected, and you fell in love with her reflection of you more than with her. That's what hurts now, not the breakup, not the silence, but the realization that you needed her to believe in you, because you didn't believe in yourself. So now what? You sit, you stare at your phone, you scroll through old messages, replaying every word like a prayer to a God who no longer listens. You whisper questions into the dark. Oh, what did I do wrong? Why wasn't I enough? What if I just tried harder? But the voice that answers is your own, and it's tired. Tired of bending, tired of bargaining, tired of breaking. This is where the truth begins, not with a new woman, not with distraction, but with collapse, the quiet kind, the one that strips you bare, takes the roles, the masks, the stories, and burns them. You're left with what's underneath, raw, unfiltered, uncertain. And in that space, you finally hear the voice you've silenced for years, the boy who was always waiting, the one who never got picked, the one who learned to perform, to earn, to chase, because he thought that's what made him worthy. He's still there, not broken, not shameful, just waiting for you to stop running. This is where you start to negotiate with your shadow. Not to destroy it, not to bury it, but to understand it, because that shadow, that ache, that lust, that hunger, it's part of you. It's not your enemy, it's your signal, a call to wholeness, not through possession, but through presence. You've spent years trying to fill the void, but maybe the void isn't a flaw, maybe it's a door. A space that only you are meant to step into. No woman can fill it. No title, no conquest, no praise. Only you, the man who stops chasing and starts remembering what made you valuable before anyone saw you, what gave you dignity before anyone touched you, what anchored you before you were loved. This isn't about walking away from love, it's about walking toward it, but without a leash around your neck. You don't need to be worshipped to be whole. You don't need to be chosen to be real. You don't need her eyes to see yourself clearly. The mirror is already inside you. You just forgot how to look. So sit in the silence, feel the ache, not as a punishment, but as a path, because only when you face the shadow does the man behind it begin to rise. But that's only the surface. The real danger hides deeper. Word count 1046. You don't need her to come back. You don't need closure. You don't need the perfect last message, the clean ending, the explanation that makes everything feel tidy and fair. That's the old part of you talking. The part that still believes healing comes from outside, from her words, from her regret, from her eyes. But healing isn't a return, it's a release, and the truth is, you've already let go, not with anger, not with spite, but with something deeper. A quiet kind of clarity, the kind that doesn't need to be loud, doesn't need to prove anything. It just is, because now you see the cycle. You see how every time you reached for her, you were reaching through her, trying to touch a piece of yourself you thought was missing, but it was never missing. It was buried under stories, under shame, under that aching, echoing lie that said, "You are not enough. You were, you are, you just forgot." Because the world taught you to trade your truth for attention, to bend your instincts for affection, to perform for approval, and you were good at it, too good, so good that you fooled even yourself, but not anymore. Now the mask feels heavy. The old roles feel tight, and the silence you used to avoid now feels like home. This is what coming back to yourself feels like. Not a roar, not a scream, just a soft return, a man sitting in a room, not waiting for her to call, not refreshing a message thread, but breathing, being, watching the storm pass without needing to step into it. And this isn't the end, it's the beginning, because now desire doesn't own you, lust doesn't blind you, her presence doesn't define you, and her absence doesn't break you. You see her for what she was, a mirror, a lesson, a season, and you thank her, not because she saved you, but because she showed you exactly where you were still bleeding. That's what love can do, not fix you, not fill you, but reveal you. And now, there's nothing left to chase, no more fantasy, no more projection. Just a man and his truth, the kind of man who no longer needs to prove, to perform, to beg, to betray himself just to feel wanted. Because now he chooses, not out of fear, not out of lack, but from stillness, and that's where your power lies. Not in what you get, but in what you no longer need. So tonight, when you face your reflection, you'll see something different. Not just a man, but a witness, a survivor, a sovereign. The boy is still there, but he's no longer hiding, and the shadow, you've walked through it, and on the other side is peace, not the kind someone gives you, the kind you reclaim. The journey doesn't end here, but now you walk it whole. End of script. Word count 1009. If you've made it this far, something inside you already knew, not in words, but in weight, in the quiet tension you've carried, in the ache that never made it into conversation, but lived in your chest, behind your smiles. This wasn't just a story, it was a mirror, a confrontation, not with her, but with the part of you that's been waiting for someone to finally say it. You're not broken, you're just unfinished, and the lust that's twisted your path, the shame that's made you small, the silence that's made you scream behind your own eyes, they aren't enemies, they're invitations to wake up, to remember, to rebuild. You've seen the cost of forgetting yourself, you've felt the burn of chasing what was never meant to hold you. And now you get to decide what kind of man you want to be, not the one they told you to become, not the one who performs, but the one who stands in his own truth, unshaken, unmasked, unapologetic. And if this spoke to you, if something clicked, even quietly, don't let it fade. Like this video, subscribe if you're ready to go deeper, and share this with the man you know is silently carrying the same war. This isn't about followers. It's about brothers, men ready to see what's been hidden, men brave enough to confront the fire most run from, because the lust that breaks a man can also be the pain that finally makes him whole.